Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm about to show you a series of videos with facts, with investors, with other people as well, on my side of the story of what happened with Redline Drive. But first, we'll start with in 2011. I had the idea. I wanted to create a band similar to Steel Dragon. Yes, the band from the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg. And I ended up seeking out guitar players, and I had found a guy that auditioned for Redline Drive that I hired by the name of Brad McCain. Later, in 2015, after we had been a band for a while, I went to a karaoke bar and saw this amazing guitar player, and he asked me if I had a band, and I hired Johnny Stallion, also known as TJ Marzoni, to Redline Drive. Then following just a few months later, looking for a permanent drummer for Redline Drive, I got lucky and made a Google search and found this blonde-headed kid from Alabama, and who later showed up in Texas to audition for Redline Drive, and then I hired Drew Dye to Redline Drive. The band continued to play, and in 2016, I was quite overwhelmed doing everything throughout these years from 2012 to 2016, booking all the shows, making all the phone calls, arranging all the merchandise, doing all the graphic work, creating the website, etc. Trying to create a brand and a business. I'd become very overwhelmed, and I had some personal things really going on internally that I needed to settle down, and I took a complete break from music. I didn't do this right. I didn't communicate with the band, also known as a family, and tell them ahead of time that I was taking a step down. After we had a big show at Gas Monkey Live, the next day I announced that I was no longer going to sing in Redline Drive, and I was stepping down. And it was very selfish of me the way that I did it, and I own that to this day. It was wrong because it really did hurt feelings of people that I did care for. I really did care about the guys that were in the band with me, and it was very selfish the way I did it, and I own that. Thankfully, I've been forgiven, to my knowledge, for doing that. 2018 brought the band back together, and we went on to playing shows. I had run across at a big show at Gas Monkey Live. I met a gentleman by the name of Fred Robinson. Shortly after meeting him, had lunch with him a couple times, and I asked him if he would potentially want to be a managerial figure for Redline Drive, because I needed help. I needed help as far as somebody else to take the phone calls, somebody else to coordinate booking mainly. That was the hardest thing, was booking, because to get shows you gotta be a hungry dog. And he said he would take the job. He had never managed before in his life, but he was interested in the opportunity, and I told him that I would train him as much as possible on what I had learned throughout the years. So we spent a lot of time on the phone for a good year, a lot of time on the phone night after night, me trying to teach him and give him the right words to say to booking agents, etc., through email. We had a show with Warrant and Steelheart. That was Fred's first show managing the band. I booked that show. He basically was just riding along to see kind of how things worked. His first show where he kind of took the reins was a show at the Mass Club in Fort Worth, Texas. At this show we were doing for the veterans. I had asked him if we could do a show for the veterans on Veterans Day, which is November 11th. They were booked that day, so we picked the following weekend. So we did a show at the Mass Club in Fort Worth. In benefit of 50% of all proceeds would go to the Chris Kyle Foundation. You guys know of Chris Kyle. And 50% of all the money we made would be going to that. And the following day we were shooting a music video for our newest single, Do You Want to Make Love, which I wrote in my apartment by myself. And moving forward,
He showed up with a bunch of soda.
Moving forward at the music video, Fred Robinson shows up at the music video with a bunch of bottles that say Real Sugar Soda, Oak Cliff Brewing Company on them. And he tells us, I've got you guys a sponsor. This company has brought all these sodas for you guys, and potentially they might buy you guys your next round of merch to stock you up. As well as, he said, his friend David LaSoya was going to give us up to $10,000 to record a new album. So everything looked great to bring Fred along, because Fred is obviously networking with people that want to help sponsor the band and keep us carrying along, which is fantastic. So shortly after that, throughout the fall season, early winter of 2018 to 2019, we get new merchandise coming in, and it has Real Sugar Soda logo on it, as well as we had a Real Sugar Soda banner at our merch table. And we are all like, I guess this is really a real deal. Thanks a lot, Fred. Everything's going good. And we started playing shows like normal. I was helping book as much as I could. I would usually see a national act coming into town. I would send Fred the contact of that venue so he could try to seal the deal, or I would make contact with the venue because they had already known me as a familiar face, and then Fred would then take over the contact and seal the deal if there's going to be a show. That's usually how we book.
When you say seal the deal, are you saying like he would sign contracts, or what do you mean by seal the deal exactly? Do you know?
When I say seal the deal, I've never to this day ever seen a contract for a show, ever.
And you didn't have a contract between yourself or Redline Drive and him?
And Fred had no contract between anybody in the band or me. It was basically a handshake agreement. You're going to be the manager, help us out kind of deal. There was no contractual thing. Anytime he booked a show, I never saw a contract.
Okay. And then what started happening?
In 2019, a lady named Leilani Bartley gave us $10,000 as an investment to help us out. And then shortly after that, her son gave us $30,000 to help out. So that this Bartley family wrote out 2 checks to help out Redline Drive.
But they didn't write them out to Redline Drive.
The checks were not written out to Redline Drive. David Lasoya is the person that the checks were written out to. Fred Robinson told me, if you have an investor that wants to invest, have them write the checks out to David Lasoya because he'll match it. He's my friend. He's taking care of you guys. He'll match it. And at this time, Redline Drive did not have a business bank account.
Okay. So you got $40,000, and that's when things kind of started getting weird.
We got $40,000 invested into the band, and also a promise from the investors that the following year in 2020, if their settlement for her widowed husband passing, if the big settlement would go through, both of them were going to give us $1 million each.
So a lot of money was on the line all of a sudden.
So a lot of money is on the line and up in the air. And the thing that had all of us involved in Redline Drive jittery was each time this investor had said she was going to do something, she did it.
But you guys never actually saw the money. Like, you saw the checks, but you never saw, like, it go into a bank, or you have no idea, like, where it actually went.
I personally saw both of the cashier's checks, but I never saw what bank account it went into.
You never saw a deposit slip.
I never saw a deposit slip. I never saw a bank statement.
And it was never made out to you.
And they were never made out to me, ever. Again, Redline Drive did not have a bank account.
So what made your flags start kind of, I mean, that's obviously a really big red flag to anybody who's watching. But other than that, what other kind of flags, I mean, made you kind of start investigating? Because that's where all the crap happened, is because you started looking into stuff.
The biggest red flag that happened was I was talking to Fred about the potential that we were going to get $2 million. And I said, what I think would be the smartest deal is to pay everybody in the band a salary for a whole year, so we can buy onto a tour with somebody that can get us some kind of exposure to get us moving forward, and we can give everyone a salary.
In the band.
In the band. As well as Fred as a manager and 1 stage tech. which would be at the time Anthony, who was a stage manager, pay him a salary. And Fred immediately said to me, we need to give David a salary too. And I said, why would we give your friend a salary? He said, because he's part of this. He's going to stick in this. We need to give him a salary. And I said, how much? And he wanted me to agree to match what I'm getting as an artist, which was an agreement of $50,000 per year, give that same amount to David Lasoya. But David's just an investor, is what I said. And it turned into this big battle and circle of no. We need to keep David happy. We need to give him a salary as well.
And where did David come from?
I have no idea where David Lasoya came from.
Because clearly you hired everybody, but you never actually hired David.
I hired everybody in this band. David Lasoya was an outsider that is attached to Fred. Somehow. My opinion was David was the money guy.
So from that point, you started researching and starting looking into stuff because your flags were raised a little bit.
From that point, I started wondering why would we be offering an investor our investment money from a completely different investor so he can stick around.
And when you start asking questions to Fred, what does he do? How does he answer you?
When I ask questions of Fred, he either doesn't answer them, changes the subject very quickly, or gives some halfway answer that really doesn't answer the question and moves on and immediately gets you off subject and keeps talking to the point to where what you originally asked him, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's very articulate, it's very manipulative, and it's very, it's I don't know the right word to say.
You have to be quick to be able to keep up with it.
He's very, very hard to keep up with, especially when he gets put in a hot seat. He will find a very quick way to get out of it.
So you started researching, and
I started researching. The first way that I really started researching is I just talked to my friend Leilani, who invested with her son, and I said, you should ask, or she had asked me. I didn't ask her. She had asked me how much of my money's been spent so far. I said, I have no idea. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I have zero access to knowing that knowledge. I have no idea. And she said, well, I'm going to ask Fred and David. I said, okay, it's your money. You have every right to. She's an investor. And she had mentioned that she had called me after she text messaged Fred. He said he would get with David over the weekend. The following, I think it felt like an hour later, David said Fred already has all the info. So there was another red flag. Why would Fred need to get with David? And then why would David minutes later say Fred's already got it all?
Did you go to Fred? Did you ask him?
I tried to talk to Fred, and Fred would not speak to me at all.
That's really weird. When you hired him and you hired everybody, and now all of a sudden you're not being spoken to. Yep. It's also your friend who is the investor.
Yep.
And if I recall, there was actually a video at your house when the money was handed over to Fred.
There was a video, and it's on YouTube of.
But now all of a sudden you don't get to know anything?
I don't get to know anything.
That seems kind of weird to me.
All of payments for our website, all of payments for merchandise that was being spent and stuff was actually being taken out of my personal bank account up until January of 2019. So this is before the investor.
So a lot of people are saying that you're a thief, but they're also saying that she got money back or something, and then she bought you a car with the money that they gave Fred.
To this day, Leilani's not received a dime, and I've seen those bank statements. She's not seen a penny from anybody involved in Redline Drive.
So the car and Redline are not even the same?
Two completely separate transactions. There was an opportunity that Leilani approached Fred and said, can we help out Scott for a birthday gift and give him a down payment out of what my son donated to Redline Drive as an investment, and then I'll put it back.
So you ended up having a meeting with Fred. It was a meeting between you and him.
Fred called me for a meeting and said, I want to meet up with you Monday night, November 17th. This is imperative that you're there. No questions. And I said, is it just me and you? And he didn't reply. I show up to this meeting, and it's Fred, Brad McCain, and David Lasoya.
And what was this about?
And Fred said, we're going to iron all this out right now. I'm going to tell you how much we've spent. I'm going to let you know. And then after this, we don't want to have any discussion about it at all anymore. And I said, okay, expecting to see bank statements. Because I had previously asked him how much money's left. And all he would say is, we have a good amount. We have a good amount. We have a good amount. No real numbers. That's all he would say. And so I was sitting in this meeting, and the very first thing that's said is Brad McCain sitting to my left, David Lasoya is across from me, and Fred's to my right. Brad says, first of all, I want to say, don't you ever, ever say that my family's not important or this band's more important than my family. And I sit there in my chair completely awestruck going, what in the world? Come to find out, and after taking it in, leaving the meeting and realizing some stuff, Fred had put in Brad's head, and he later on apologized for doing this to me, that I said at some point, I don't care about Brad having a daughter. This band needs to know what Brad's plan is once he's a father. And that was never what was said. At this time, I also have a child. So whatever happens with this band affects my child. Knowing Brad was going to be a daughter or have a daughter, I was actually looking for his best interest. Like, dude, he's going to be a great dad. What's the band going to do? Because I know he's going to be very actively involved in his daughter's life, which is great. So what are we going to do? What's the steps?
So what did Fred show you for bank statement wise?
So after this was settled between me and Brad, I shook his hand. I told him, I said, I love you, man. I would never, ever, ever disrespect the idea of you having a family. That's great. And I'm not at all coming at you like this band's more important. So we moved on from that. And Fred said, okay, well, now I'm going to show you how much money we've spent. And he took a piece of notebook paper. It was a spiral notebook that had a top eliminator dragster on the front of it. And on notebook paper, he wrote 67,000 da 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 da. Just writing it right in front of me. And then writes up here 6,000 da 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 da. And then 7,000 da 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 da. And I'm going, what is this? And he says, this is how much money we've spent this year. Take note, we had only had 11 shows up to this time. We were in the middle of recording in a studio, but we weren't recording in Capitol Records. The recording studio rate that we were getting was, I think, $400 per day that we were in there. And we were in the studio, I think, 10 times. So 11 shows. Each show we have to fly Drew back and forth from Alabama. And then recording time.
So in a nutshell, it wasn't adding up.
Nothing added up.
So it's not adding up, and there's no proof.
And there's no proof.
I mean, I could pull numbers out of the sky.
And the guy that has the proof is sitting across the table from me, not saying a single word.
Yeah, because David's the one that got the $40,000 in his bank.
He's the one
who promised to double it.
David Lasoya is sitting across from me, not saying a single word. Brad is irritated because he believes everything Fred says about me saying his daughter doesn't matter. And then Fred's writing all this on paper, and Brad's saying, Scott, you need to believe this. This is true. We don't need to lose David. And David also says in this meeting, look, I don't care how much money it costs to invest in you guys, even if it's $100,000. I'm vicariously going to live my dreams through you guys, and don't worry about it. I'll be fine. If you guys need $100,000, I'll give it to you.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
And I remember that very clearly.
So you walk away from this meeting, and now you're starting to get your proof.
And I walk away from this meeting, and I, in my gut, was mad. First thing that I'm told when I walk away from the meeting is Fred tells me, you need to call Leilani and square things up with her now. Not him calling Leilani, because he took the check. I need to call Leilani. So I call her at first and say everything's fine. The next day, I could not walk away from saying everything's fine because I knew it was wrong. So I apologized and said I lied. They didn't show me any bank statements at all. I also lied to Cadence, you, and told you, oh yeah, everything's fine. And then when you found out when she found out there wasn't bank statements, she also flipped out. So I started digging for facts. And
undeniable, black and white, not just out of your head. like reaching out to people facts.
And so the facts that I have are we sold 126 tickets to the Mass Club, which would equal $10 per ticket. $1,026.
So this is on your what's it called? Fundraiser, basically, for the Chris Kyle Foundation.
This is the Chris Kyle Foundation. 50% goes to the Chris Kyle Foundation.
So you guys sold 126. So that's how much?
$1,260 that we owed to, or half of that we owed to Chris Kyle Foundation.
Okay, so roughly $630.
$600,
Ish,
give or take.
Give or take. So we contacted Chris Kyle.
We contacted Chris Kyle Foundation December 21st, 2019, and we asked if there was any donations given to the organization, because when you donate to an organization like Chris Kyle Foundation, you get a 5013C, which means you donated, and the business is to claim
It's a write-off.
donation. It's a write-off at the end of the year.
Correct.
And so
they searched and searched
response
and searched.
After searching,
under many different names. They searched under Redline Drive. They searched under Fred Robinson. They searched under David Lasoya. They searched under FR3 Entertainment. They searched under Brad McCain. They searched under Scott Kimes. They searched under every single name that we could think of. And what did they say?
hello, thank you for sending the info over. I've searched all the names you have given me, including FR3 name. I also look at the dates, and I'm unable to locate a donation. Thank you, Kylie Towns, Chris Kyle Foundation.
Oh, so nothing was ever donated.
We were supposed to donate to this Veterans Foundation, and nothing was donated. Nothing at all.
Did the band even know how much y'all made that show?
The band had no clue. I didn't even know.
No, not until we contacted the Mass Club directly.
We contacted Mass Club directly, and as you saw in that email, it shows right there that looks like we sold 126 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we found out how much we made.
So this isn't adding up. You guys don't know how much you're making, and you don't know how much you're donating, and now you're not getting your tax receipts from a 5013C.
Correct.
Those is issues happening. Those are issues.
We did a show, and I was told by somebody very high in the industry that we needed to have that paperwork because having their logo on our stuff, and if we never donated, they could really start a really, really, really big uproar in our business because we used them.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And that's why I wanted to go get this documentation, because I had never seen the documentation. So the national name that was advising me this stuff was looking out for me, saying, you need to find that documentation, because if there's not been anything documented, you could be in really big trouble.
Because again, you started Redline Drive.
And I started Redline Drive, so I am researching where this stuff has gone.
So next thing is, then you also had your music video, and you decided that
then we had the music video, and I decided to go back to the video editor, the guy that did the video, and ask him how much he was paid. January 15th of 2020, I was told by Fred Robinson that Fred paid him $1,500 for the music video.
Plus another $500.
Plus another $500 to do pictures of us in Las Vegas when we played a show in June of 2019.
So that's $2,000.
So $2,000 he supposedly paid this guy. I contacted the guy directly. He said, Fred gave me $1,000.
I thought he said 500. Was that 1,000?
It was $1,000.
Okay. So where'd the other 1,000 go? So you don't have a clue where the money went.
There's no receipts.
No receipts. IRS doesn't like that. I tell you that right now. And they also don't like when money goes in wrong business accounts.
So the thing that I'm sitting here wondering is, okay, it's now the fall of 2019. I don't know where my friend's money went. I have a gut feeling, and I've known to trust your gut, especially when this was like turning backwards. I knew something was wrong.
You had other shows where you talked to the manager, and you were promised an X amount plus bar.
We played a show at the Hideout, and I actually brought this up in the band chat, and we were told. I told the manager, Fred, I said, don't play at this venue if they don't promise us $1,000. The promise was $800 plus a percentage of the bar. I got the letter from the lady at the venue.
She was a manager. Mm-hmm.
The manager at the venue. We got paid $600.
And no bar.
And no bar. And I asked Fred about it in the chat, and he, again, roundabout way to get himself out of it. And then Brad chimed in, Scott, you need to shut up and let Fred handle this himself.
So Brad seems to be constantly agreeing with everything Fred says, which is interesting because right after the investment money, didn't Brad also get a new truck?
Brad got a new truck very, very, very short after the investment money came in. I got a car, which again was completely separate from Redline Drive, but Brad got a Dodge truck. And
don't know where it came from.
I know he has a handyman service that he's been working really hard at, but I don't know. He didn't have a truck before then, but when this investment money comes in, all of a sudden now he's got a new truck.
And he's constantly telling you just shut up and sing.
And he's constantly telling me, shut up, don't worry about it, and sing. And then January 2019, he had me come to his house, and we switched everything. All the accounts were coming out of Wix.com was our website host. So every month, my personal bank account was being charged. So Brad said, I'm going to switch the CD Baby account, the Wix account, everything to my bank. You no longer need to worry about any of this.
So I'm just curious. I mean, you started all this. Why would you give somebody so much control like that? Why would you let Fred take all the money for the band? Why would you let Brad take all the accounts and all of the marketing? Why would you do that?
Because I wanted to continue to be on stage no matter what. I was willing to not lose what I thought was all I had. And it was like, hey, give these guys control or you won't have a band at all.
Okay. So in February, me and you, I'm not going to say just you, but we both were digging. And at the end of the day, basically not backing down.
I was not backing down. I wasn't stopping. I went to record January 15th. The recording studios in Plano, Texas. I drove from Weatherford to Plano on a scheduled date to record. I show up. Fred walks out of the studio and says, we're not recording today. We have some other issues going on. And we get into an argument. The merch guy that works the merch tables today at Redline Drive concerts was sitting in Fred's truck the whole time. I don't know why he was there. I have no idea why he was there. Fred wants to talk to me outside. Also wants to make sure my phone is off because a portion of this meeting I had recording on my phone. And when he finds out my phone was on, he says, why the F is your phone on? Mm-hmm. And I turned it off immediately and put it inside my car. In the middle of this, he asked me, why did you lose respect for me, Scott? And I said, the moment I lost respect for you was when you told Brad that I didn't give a crap about his daughter. And that's pretty much exactly what you did. And he said, I didn't mean it like that. I said, well, that's what you did, and I have no respect for you. And I started crying. I had tears running down my face. And I said, this band is my baby. I started this. I created this. And I said, and how dare you say something like that? And I know those two sentences don't even add up. But I was so emotionally distraught that I'm looking at my band is now turning everybody's turning to me that I'm the problem when I'm questioning everything. And then I've got a guy that has been in this, the first person I ever auditioned, hates my guts because of what this guy has said. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, I said, I have a child, don't forget that. And nothing comes before my son. At the time, I had one. For
the whole time, I mean, the entire time of Redline Drive, basically, you had you had him. So, yep. I mean, yeah, you did, 2011. So we're running about almost 30 minutes, so we're going to try to speed this up. So you end up, quote, being removed from Redline as a singer.
Before I was removed, I contacted an attorney, and I asked him general advice, business advice. And he said to me, hey, who's technically the leader in your band? Because I understand it should be you, but who's the one that pretty much everybody listens to now? I said, Brad. He said, have Brad call me. He said, I'm going to set up a 3-hour Zoom chat for $150, and I want to sit down with you guys and help you restructure all this to run it the correct way as a business, because the way that you guys are doing things
And he's wrong. An entertainment attorney for some big names.
He's an entertainment attorney for some very big names. And I said, okay. So I sent this phone number to Brad. And the next day, I get a message through Facebook Messenger. Scott, your services are no longer needed with Redline Drive, and all of these allegations from Brad.
So an attorney gets involved, and now, boop, we don't want you.
Attorney got involved to help, and the next day, I'm cut.
So I remember that was a really hard day.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really hard few months.
Because 2 days later, I was fired from my job as a special needs.
So now you've gone into rebranding, and you rebuilt yourself. You rose from the ashes.
So after this, I didn't want to stop, and I started Kimes. And I started pushing forward as Kimes. I started writing all new stuff, completely new. It took about a month and a half to 2 months of not even listening to anything that was even that genre of music, because I was just really, really, really awestruck and sick.
And you released your first song.
And I released my first song, Turn It Up, in November of 2020.
And what did they do?
The day the music video was released, they decided we're going to release a song the same day. And they released Electric Love. Which is funny because all of the fans that have been fans of Redline Drive since I was singing noticed it sounded really, really, really familiar to a song that I wrote called Criminal. And Criminal is about the Joker from Batman. And
so now we're looking at a little bit of legal trouble because that's copyright infringement.
And I contacted an attorney, and they said, yes, these two are infringement. You do have an intellectual property that belongs to you, and that is that melody that you came up with. They can change the lyrics, but they cannot sing the same melody. Mm-hmm. So I'm noticing now what's happening. Mm-hmm. I release something, they immediately release something as a slap in the face.
Right. And they didn't seem to write anything new that whole time. And you had all kinds of new stuff coming out.
The whole time that I had started rebranding, I'm telling you, I went completely from scratch. All new songs. I had 10 new songs.
New website.
New
logos.
New songs, new logos, new banners, new shirts, new merch, new everything.
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands invested into a brand new.
And lots of money out of my pocket. Yes, I worked for it. For those that hear that I don't work. Yes, I worked for it. I saved. I paid into studio time and recorded a lot of stuff.
And they just kept coming at you. And
they kept coming at me.
Once you hit a national show, we were booking shows. Your very first live show back.
Well, my first live show back was funny because TJ Marzoni told me in May of 2020 on a phone call that the reason why I was fired from Redline Drive is I was costing them fans. They were losing fans because of me. Well, I had a show at Halton Theater on May 15th of 2021, and pre-sale tickets through the whole band entirety was 206 tickets sold. We had a total of 252 people in the venue. Mm-hmm. That's more people in one venue than Redline Drive had ever had before in ticket sales when I was in the band.
So I don't know, I guess
it kind of debunked his whole allegation of they lost fans whenever I have a show. And
I'm assuming that probably stung a little bit when they saw that. I'm assuming. It's an assumption. I don't know.
It's an assumption.
So then you got connected with a national act.
Then I got on the bill with Buck Cherry.
And this is where things really kind of started getting ugly.
And I had to get a secondary drummer. The drummer we had for our Halton Theater show had personal issues. And I had to get a fill-in drummer. The day of the show, the drummer had told me he could not do the show because his wife was being put in the hospital for COVID. And the following day, he tested positive for COVID. So it was kind of good he wasn't there. Well, the original drummer that day, coincidentally, was not planned. I didn't even ask him anything. Had messaged me an apology letter. And I said, well, if you want to make it up, show up to the show tonight. We need you. And he showed up and we were able to do the show.
The day before that, something weird happened. We were camping, though.
The day before that, I get a phone call from a friend, and he said, I saw him post on Facebook that somebody's going to pay $200 for somebody to film your set, and they'll get backstage passes. And then after the show, somebody overheard a phone conversation that the person that was calling and asking for this was Brad McCain.
Why was he wanting that?
He was going to copyright my songs. He was going to send somebody to the show to video the show and copyright my songs.
Mm-hmm. So him and the Rail Club owner teamed up.
Rail Club owner teamed up.
Yeah, because right after the Buck Cherry show is when...
After the Buck Cherry show, I was supposed to have a show July 23rd, which was a big deal because
now we're
the national band that's coming in July 23rd, they're signed to a record label. In April of 2021, I had a Zoom chat with the president of the same record label. I was promised on this show with this band, I was being scouted for a small deal. So it was a big deal for me. This is a step up to move forward. And after the Buck Cherry show, it's brought to my attention that I'm never being booked at the Rail Club ever again. Cadence had messaged the owner because he would not message me. I asked him privately for a meeting to sit down and talk. He would not respond. He then responded to her and said, I'm booking Redline Drive in the spot of where Kimes should be.
And that was basically a personal slap in the face. And I told him that. And we didn't know that him and Brad at this point had actually been teaming up. We didn't know this.
I had no idea.
And then so they end up playing on that show.
They played on that show.
And what happened? What did we see on social media from that show?
On social media, the owner of the club is wearing a F-U-C-K Kimes with half of my logo in the middle of it, black T-shirt, and then all the staff is wearing a shirt that says Karma Bone Pallone, and it's two middle fingers with a skull, and it says F-U-S-K.
And these are all people you hired.
These are all people that I hired.
And
even the staff.
And
Hawk, Anthony, I hired those guys.
And we know because somebody has come to us recently and said who is handing the shirts out. They tried to hand it to...
Somebody recently came to me and said, hey, yeah, one of their techs tried to give me one of those shirts, and I said, absolutely not. I'm not dealing with that crap. So come to find out, I don't know if the owner of the venue made these shirts and was selling them, or if Redline Drive members, current members, were selling these shirts and passing them out, or if they weren't even selling them, they were just passing them out to people. One or the other. This slewed behind when the conversation happened of me not being on the show and Redline Drive was taking the show July 23rd. I had messaged the venue owner and a screenshot message from Redline Drive members in a chat that I was involved in that said, F the Rail Club, F the Rail Club. And this comes from Brad and TJ, both. Mm-hmm. And I guess the response from that was, I'm going to blacklist you from playing, period. And I'm going to wear shirts that say F Kimes.
So in a nutshell, after all this hard work with Redline Drive and the heartache from Redline Drive, you moved on. Mm-hmm. And you rebranded and you stepped forward.
Yep.
And every time they sabotaged.
Every single step I took, they were always on top to, ooh, I got a song I'm going to put out. And it was
obvious.
It's not a big deal if it was like one time and it could be a coincidence, but when it's every single time, it's not a coincidence at that point.
Well, and then when you start getting the calls and saying that they're calling and literally have people who will give statements saying that this is what they heard and saw. So you tried.
It was not hearsay. This person said, yes, it was Brad on the phone, and yes, he was talking to this person.
Right. So you tried to move forward. So all those people are like, oh, it's petty. Da, da, da. No, it wasn't petty because we moved on. We moved forward.
Everybody says I'm immature. Take a look real quick that I was moving forward.
And I love it when people say, oh, we just don't want to deal with your drama. And then those same people show up to a concert that say F-U-S-K.
And they want to wear the shirts, but they don't want to deal with drama. And then these people are blocked from my Facebook, so they don't see anything on my Facebook, but it's drama. So I don't know what you're hearing. Check your facts, because I've got facts here.
And these are just little bits.
This is the beginning of many facts. So double check what you're hearing. I'm a man of integrity. I do the best to have the best intentions. I'm not going to lie about it. I have no reason to lie about it. If I did something wrong, I'm going to own it. I didn't steal anything from a company I started. I invested in.
Yeah, how much did you invest into Redline Drive?
Up until April 16th of 2016, my investment total was over $5,000 at that time.
So have you gotten any of that back? Because
I've gotten not a penny back.
Because you paid for all the stuff they're using.
the banners that you see at all their shows, I paid for every one of them. I had Brad put in $100.
And a lot of the merch, I think you paid for. We've also reached out to the Real Sugar Soda.
Real Sugar Soda VP. I've asked him for a contractual. What was the contract agreement between Real Sugar Soda sponsoring Redline Drive, and did they buy T-shirts with their logos on them for the band to sell at shows? The VP has not responded.
No, he responded once, and then
responded one time and said, basically, I was not somebody that needed to be responded to because I'm not part of Redline Drive and I'm not part of FR3 Entertainment. In response, I showed him my state documentation showing that I own the business. And about Real Sugar Soda, I've emailed the VP. I've also had my management team email the VP, and we've heard one response. The response was that he was not going to give any information to members that were not members of Redline Drive or FR3 Entertainment, which is the management company. And I, since then, have responded and explained to him that I need
Well, you need it for IRS
I need
reasons.
it for the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what write-offs we have and what sponsorships came into the business. And I've heard nothing.
Because again, legally, your name is associated to.
Legally, my name is associated to it.
Yeah. And then also there was another venue that we reached out to long ago when we were doing research, and they said, I guess, that Brad was on the contract or something like that, but they, again, would not confirm how much money y'all got. It seemed like every time we tried to get information, you guys as a band or you never got concrete answers. So you've never actually seen how much money came in. Fred sat down and told you how much money went out, but he didn't factor in how much money you guys received.
Well, he did write down and said Redline Drives made, I think it was between $6,000 and $7,000 in the year. And a lot of that he chalked up to merchandise.
So, but without the proof.
But that doesn't even add up either. That's $6,000 and $7,000 in a year out of 11 shows. That it really didn't add up that much, because I have proof of some of our shows and we didn't make anything. And
you invested tons, but you never received anything. But people say you're the one who stole.
I have an expense report in my email account of everything that I spent just up from 2013 to 2016, and that alone was over $5,000. And people ask, how'd you do that? Well, I had a job, put my money into that I made in the job, put it right into paying my own personal bills, and every penny I had left over went straight to the band.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add?
I just want to get the reality out here. I'm not going to steal from something that I love. It just doesn't happen. My mentality is to go and keep pushing forward and do whatever I can to help that go somewhere, not hold it back. Wasn't holding anything back. I was the one that was the drive making this thing work.
And this video and these series of videos would not be happening had none
of this would have happened if they would have carried on with their little life and done their little thing and left me alone. But they chose to constantly pick, and I was advised by my father that if you don't do something about somebody like this, then they're never going to stop. So this is just the beginning that I now am putting my foot down, and the copyright infringements that are going on, they're going to get caught. There's also a song called Light It Up that's coming out on their new album. I wrote the whole thing.
Well, let's end on that. You have the recording of when you sent it.
Here's the recording of when I sent it to TJ.
Do you remember the year?
It was November 2nd, 2018. I sent the idea to him. Here's what it sounds like. And the verses have been changed because we changed it up later on. But again, the chorus and everything I wrote, and it's exactly the same. Okay, Light It Up verse into the chorus. Kind of sounds like this. It's 9 o'clock, we're the talk of the town, and we're blowing it up tonight.
Get a drink in your hand, you won't need a man, and we're gonna get you feeling
Here's the
right.
chorus.
And we're gonna light it up. Let's set the night on fire. Light it up till you can't get enough. And we're gonna light it up. Fill your heart with desire. Light it up until you fall in love.
So there's the melody that I created. You will now hear it on their album.
Even though
And I've copywritten it already as well. They changed the lettering in their copyright to LITE, light it up, and went ahead and copyrighted anyway.
this is just the beginning of the proof that we've been compiling for the past 2 years.
And the defamation of character that has consistently gone on through Facebook. Yes, I was in the Marines. Yes, I graduated boot camp. I did not get discharged out of boot camp for asthma. That's not true. I did complete boot camp. I did complete infantry training battalion. And I did go to join my unit, in which at my unit I was later discharged because I had 3 asthma attacks in a 6-mile boots and utes run. So that clears that up. And on with other things,
We'll see you on the next videos, I guess.
we'll see on the next videos. Get ready for a series of
Debunking.
debunking. Bye.